for better level playing field. And the third point is government to...
Hold on. I have to...
Sorry.
I'm not that fast. So can we go back to point 1? I want to know if it's something we captured last year that we can edit, or if it's something that's completely new that we have to add.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, for point 1 is for government to fast track the establishment of ICT agency for realization of digital Gambia. ICT agency for realization of digital Gambia. Very good. For point 2, government to restructure GAMTEL for more efficiency and reposition it to either retail or wholesale for better level playing field. Are you typing? Point 2, for government to restructure GAMTEL for more efficiency and reposition it to either retail or wholesale for a better level playing field.
Are we urging government? Are we encouraging government? Or are we actually calling on government? The wording is very important. So which one is it? Where are the group members? Encourage is too soft. I think this has gone on for a while. I think we have to be very...
Mr. Alujala, can you please help on that? You know he's part of the government, so he wants us to use the soft word.
Calling, you know me, I'm... Encourage is definitely too soft. Maybe calling on government to... Are we going to put a timeline on this? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. For point number 3, government...
No. We're on 2. Call on...
Okay. Are we in 2?
We're on 2.
Okay. The 2 is for government to restructure GAMTEL for more efficiency and reposition it to either retail or wholesale. I'm still going fast?
Yes. Call on government to...
Government to restructure GAMTEL for more efficiency and reposition it to either retail, wholesale for a better level playing field.
More efficiency to reposition it?
To either retail or wholesale.
Read the sentence again.
For a better level playing field.
Okay, read it again, please, soon.
For government to restructure GAMTEL for more efficiency and reposition it to either retail or wholesale for a better level playing field. Is that okay?
Yeah, reposition it to either wholesale or retail. Retail or wholesale. Okay, so this is what I have. Call on government to restructure GAMTEL for more efficiency and to reposition it to either retail or wholesale for a better level playing field.
Exactly. That's the point.
Why are we giving the option of retail or wholesale? Isn't that being too detailed in our call? Okay. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Can you give them the mic?
Yeah, you need a mic.
Okay, here what we are trying to do is to give them that option to choose which side of the coin they want to be. Either they want to be on the wholesale or they want to be on the retail. Because here now, here GAMTEL, they are wearing both caps. They are retail and they are wholesale.
So you want them to be either or, you don't want them to be both. Is that what you want to be specific in that? Okay, then that's fair enough. Okay. We move on to the next question, to the next point.
Government to put an enabling environment for the rollout of community network to connect the unconnected and improve access and affordability.
Again?
Government to put enabling environment for the rollout of community network to connect the unconnected and improve access and affordability. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm trying to process that statement. When you say to roll out community networks, is that under infrastructure? Yes, please.
Community networks, usually they're easier to deploy and cost less compared to our conventional telecom operators, the way they invest. So wherever they deploy networks, they usually charge cheaper. And they go further, right, to where these networks usually do not have coverage. So we are saying government to put in an environment, right, for this to be rolled out in the underserved areas, the remote areas, that way those unconnected can be connected. And even within the GBA, where there are coverage, there is access, if they are rolled out here, that will trickle price down. If you have, for example, a community Wi-Fi at the Serakunda market, and they charge, for example, $10 a whole day for browsing, then that will sense the operators to bring down their prices. So this cuts across all the 4 areas: infrastructure, access, affordability, and inclusion.
Okay, thank you. So can we go back to the wording now? I put encourage. I don't know if that's good enough or that's too soft. I have a lot of radicals in this group today. Whenever I say encourage, you say no, 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 no. Something stronger.
Actually, with this, I will want us to use, if there is more force, or more force. But what happens is, in countries where you have this, even in our Gambia, you see the incumbents, right, or the current telcos, most of them, the big players, most of them, they are foreign owned, or the biggest shares are foreign owned. And all our monies are going through them. And you can see more sister companies have been established outside the country from our monies here. So community networks usually are owned by the community. So whatever monies are generated, remains here. So this is better liquidity, and can generate more wealth, right, for the locals. So it also generates employment. So to me, it's a whole advantage. And is that a word that we can, that carries more for us, we use that.
Do you have another mic? It's just 2. Okay. All right. So what's the statement, Madam Soon?
Okay, the statement is government to put an enabling environment for the rollout of community network to connect the unconnected and improve access and affordability.
Connect the unconnected.
Connect the unconnected and improve access and affordability.
Okay, so you're calling on, huh? Not encouraging. These radicals. Okay. All right, I think we're good for this one.
The next point is for PURA. For PURA to regulate and ensure service providers to have clear terms and conditions between their customers when they request for services. Okay, word by word. For PURA to regulate, to ensure service providers to have clear terms and conditions between their customers when they request for services.
I think we captured this last year.
Okay.
We captured this. It's here. It's in point number 5. Users to have a service level agreement with all operators to compensate for downtime. But I think that's a bit too specific. Maybe yours is better. I think the reason you're reading Pura very quickly is because you work there, not so. Okay, read the sentence again. We want it word for word so we can capture it.
This was not actually from me, it's from them. I was just writing. Me alone, I will have said Pura has, doing a lot with that, with the service providers, because this is one of our roles that we play in customer services. So we encourage all the service providers to give clear information to their consumers with the services that they give out. So probably they are not satisfied with that. So it's really good that they made the point here for Pura to take note of it and then to work on it as well. So if you don't mind, I will still read the statement for you again.
Yes, please.
Pura to regulate, to ensure service providers to have clear terms and conditions between their customers when they request for services. What brings this is like, so I think some of them mentioned, because let's say sometimes when you request a service from the service providers, they don't actually tell you what that package entails. Until you start using it, you realize that it's not what you actually request from them. So they need Pura to come in and then deal with that within the service providers.
So what word do we want to use for Pura?
If I can reward this, say call on Pura to ensure transparency and clear terms and conditions between service providers and customers. Yes, transparency and clear terms and conditions between the customers and service providers. Call on Pura to ensure more transparency and clear terms and conditions between service providers and their customers.
All right, so I have 2 statements here. I wrote them separately so we can look at them separately and decide which one we prefer. So the first one reads, for Pura to regulate, it doesn't read right. For Pura to regulate and ensure service providers have clear terms and conditions between their customers when they request for services. And the second one reads, call on Pura to ensure more transparency and clear terms and conditions between service providers and their customers. I prefer the second one. You too? Great. Is there a majority? Can we vote on that, please? All in favor? Aye. Your mic point. Okay.
Can I continue?
Let's go.
Okay. We have is, all government have redundant cables for backup avoidance. For government to have redundant cables for backup to avoid this.
I think we need more specific. The statement is very general. I know what you're trying to say. I think we need to see it in a way. I think it has to, when you say redundant cables, it could be internal, it could be external. I think we need to have specific what we're saying. Is it to do with external activity? I mean, it is.
Can you please have
Submarine, so I think we need to say submarine cable rather than just
just
cable.
give? Okay.
Yeah. Redundant submarine cable. Now, is submarine cable only for redundancy? I'm throwing this out there. Are there other forms of redundancy? Do we want to be very specific, or should we just ask for redundancy? I'm just saying. Yes, go ahead.
Right now, cost of satellite is expensive, although with time is coming down. So satellite may not be a better option compared to sea cable. The OMVG, we have overhead fiber cables coming with it. They are power cables. But as soon as you enter in Senegal, it doesn't belong to you, so you don't know what price they will charge. Right now, until cable cannot use it, is there capacity that we cannot use it. So it's either the submarine cable or that OMVG. We don't know what terms and conditions will be there unless you are in this Senegal territory.
So submarine cables it is. Soon you want to read statement again, please?
For government to have redundancy, then you say government cable, right? Instead of just cable, be specific.
Yeah.
For backup to avoid shortages.
Do we want to use the word shortages? I think we can find a better word. To ensure better uptime, to ensure minimum downtime. I don't know. Something.
Shortage.
I don't know. Shortage then. Avoid outage. For backup, yes. You don't even need to explain why you need a backup because I think that's a given. Call on government to have redundancy submarine cables for backup. Yes. Yes, Amadou? To have redundancy. Redundant submarine cables. Secondary. How do we want to stop at secondary? What if we want 2 or 3 or 4? I'm just saying. So how, yes, it doesn't read right. Call on government to have redundant submarine cables for backup. Is that what you're saying?
Now I'm saying the redundancy submarine cable doesn't sound very right. So maybe we need to rephrase that. Call on government to, yeah, well, we need another submarine cable. We know we only have one right now, which is the ACE. So there's the need to have another. Additional, yeah, exactly. Thank you.
And do we but then I say call on government to have. I'm not okay with that. Government to have. That is too specific. Uh, Call on the stakeholders maybe to government are the stakeholders or government to put in measures for additional submarine cables. To install additional submarine cables for redundancy. The availability of additional submarine cables for redundancy. Yes.
No, we can use government because at the end of the day, they are the overarching stakeholder that, oh wow. I need to save. ensure or the provision. Oh, no? That's it. For redundancy and cost. Or maybe just leave it. But then again, it makes it very generic. Because call on government to ensure the availability of additional submarine cables for cost reduction and redundancy. No? Don't like that. Affordability. No, doesn't sound right. Okay, I think, yes, the whole purpose of this statement is for backup, right? Okay, so we'll do the redundancy then. Yes, my assistant has told me already. Soon, please go ahead to the next one.
Okay, for the next point, it says call on government to establish cybersecurity legislation to protect national critical infrastructure. To call on government to establish cybersecurity legislation to protect national critical infrastructure.
Repeat.
Government to establish cybersecurity legislation to protect national critical infrastructure.
National critical information infrastructure and national critical infrastructure. NCII, NCI. Both. National critical information infrastructure and national critical infrastructure. National critical information infrastructure. This is our network systems, our information infrastructure, the submarine cable, the Echo1 cable, the fiber cables, whether overhead or submarine or in the land or whatever. So yes, and it could also be data centers and critical information systems. If you talk about national critical infrastructure, this could be our power systems, right? Our like right now, what's happening with Gamdel fiber cable around Fatoto? The Chinese contractor has cut it at several points and deliberately. Deliberately, because he is told that there is fiber here, don't cut it. He said, no, cut it. Deliberately. So there are no laws to punish him. So laws should be put in place so that it's clearly spelled. If you do this, this is the penalty.
Crystal clear. So, call on government to establish cybersecurity legislation to protect national critical infrastructure, national critical information infrastructure, and national critical infrastructure. Wow. Next, please.
Okay. The next point is for government to put in measures, strategies to provide internet access to the remote places and liable institutions like schools, hospitals, etc.
Start.
For government to put in
wait.
measures.
Wait, that's different from the community networks. Can you read it again, please?
For government to put in measures and strategies to provide internet access to remote places and liable institutions like schools, hospitals, etc.
We can't bring the two together from 3 because it seems to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's a few things that are different. If you can read it again, we can marry the 2 and then put it on the 3.
The number 2?
No. You had mentioned in your third point, call on government to put in an enabling environment for the rollout of community networks.
Exactly.
It's very similar to this last point that you just made. So
Okay.
read that last point you just made, and then we'll see if we can marry the two statements and put it as one.
Okay, the last point said for government to put in measures and strategies to provide internet access to remote places and liable institutions like schools and hospitals.
Okay, so I think schools and hospitals are the things that are different from that statement. We have to figure out how to put that in this one.
Actually, Isaac want this to stand out. Community networks.
Yes, but that actually touches on what she's saying too. So we can put the two together somehow. No, we're not touching this statement. What we're going to do is marry the two statements so that we reflect whatever's in that last statement here without touching community networks. Are you happy with that? You live with that? Great. Soon we'll hear the statement one more time and then we'll see how best to put the two together.
Okay, the statement says government to put in measures, strategies to provide internet access to remote places and liable institutions like schools and hospitals, etc.
Call on government to put in an enabling environment for the rollout of community networks to connect the unconnected, which is the same thing as the remote areas, and improve access and affordability, especially to schools and hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that? Or do you want the especially, or do you want?
Improve access.
Unconnected is remote, no? Unconnected is actually broader than remote. Unconnected includes remote and non-remote.
Exactly.
So it actually is more, it's all encompassing.
Probably you can check out this to say after the unconnected. You said government to input and enable environment to roll out community network to connect the unconnected, liable institution like schools and hospital to improve access and affordability. What do you think of that?
Can you say that again? I think I like that.
Like for government to put in enable environment for the rollout of community network to connect the unconnected, liable institutions like schools and hospital, etc., and to improve access and affordability.
What was the word of the unconnected? Reliable?
Liable institutions.
Liable.
Liable institutions, like public institutions can also can.
Institutions then.
Yes.
Institutions
Like schools and school hospitals, etc.
You're just giving examples.
Yeah, that wasn't just.
No, I cannot put an except in the middle of a sentence. Schools and hospitals to improve access and affordability. Now let me read what I have. It makes sense. Okay, so call on government to put in an enabling environment for the rollout of community networks to connect the unconnected. Institutions like schools and hospitals. No.
Public institutions.
No. Yes, that would make sense. But then you're saying only the unconnected institutions. What about the unconnected communities? When you take that comma out, it gives this sentence a new meaning. Listen, it will say, call on government to put in an enabling environment for the rollout of community networks to connect the unconnected institutions. It now becomes the unconnected institutions, not the communities. You're changing the complete meaning of the sentence now by moving that comma out. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to grammar 101. We're going back to English school, yes? Can we just take the schools and the hospitals out and just have our other statement?
Then public sectors or public institution, and then remove the names.
Do we have to mention schools and hospitals?
Uh, I is whole group. So if I may comment, you see, if you marry these together, you will miss some points. And since we are not running out of space, right? Running out of space. Because the way it is now, it is only pointing to community networks. So let's keep because each of them is pointing to yeah.
Yes, what I was suggesting is that after the community networks, if we can have common institutions to connect the unconnected to improve access and affordability. I don't know. What I'm saying, okay, after community networks, after community networks, if we can have comma, then we have institutions to connect the unconnected to improve access and affordability. Comma, institutions.
Yes. We will lose some emphasis. That's the point.
All right, we're divorcing the two statements then. Soon? They no longer want to get married. It's not happening. So let's capture the new statement. So let me just undo. Soon, since you have it on your paper, I'm just going to read the old statement, point number 3.
Okay.
Call on government to put in an enabling environment for the rollout of community networks to connect the unconnected and improve access and affordability.
Exactly.
Great. So then we'll go to point number 7 where we will put the divorced guy there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Should I read out point number 7 again?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good. For government to put in measures and strategies to provide internet access to remote places and liable institutions like school, hospitals, etc. To provide internet access to remote places and liable institutions like school, hospitals, etc. Like schools and hospital, etc.
Okay, so I have for government to put in measures and strategies to provide internet access to remote places like schools, hospitals, etc.
To remote places and liable institutions.
Okay, what do you mean by liable institutions? Can you please explain?
There are some institutions which we call them liable because they do not generate revenue. Right? They do not generate revenue themselves. Schools and hospitals, they are liabilities. Right? So if you wanna charge them as you charge, for example, my office or his office, it may not be fair. Right?
Just to
add on to Molamin's point, we're already in this, trying to connect some schools, and we went on to survey. What we realized is that some schools have even internet connection, but they cannot maintain the internet because it's expensive for them. So this could be a way out for them to have access in an affordable way. Yes.
Actually, even GAMTEL, they have separate pricing for schools. So government can bring a policy that's to cut across all size providers. Right? What I'm saying, government can bring a policy that should cover all operators. Like, the way it is general, putting measures and strategies to, to make it more affordable and also to give access.
So, Bakari, do you want to maintain that liable? So I have for government to put in measures and strategies to provide internet access to remote places and liable institutions like schools, hospitals, etc. Yeah, I'm going to add it. To remote places. If you say underserved, you will cover both remote and non-remote. So if you remove remote and you put underserved, the blanket is wider. So underserved is more wide-reaching. Okay. Okay. For government, so what's the word? Are we encouraging or calling on or forcing them to do that? Yes. Come again?
If you put underserved places, then you have after it institutions like schools and hospitals. Remember, these are covered in underserved. Ah, okay.
Sure. No, we need to start it with something. Are we encouraging government? Are we urging government? Are we encourage? You guys are feeling nice because the coffee has started flowing. You were Hasha just 30 minutes ago. So now you want to encourage government, huh? Okay, so let me read the final statement. Call on government to put in measures and strategies to provide internet access to underserved places. Usually the word you use is not underserved places, you use underserved regions. Areas. Areas is actually better. I'm telling you. Areas. Call on government to put in measures and strategies to provide internet access to underserved areas and liable institutions like schools, hospitals, etc. Read, okay? No, when you say the word underserved, it means areas that are not covered. So underserved areas, you can have underserved areas, you can have underserved regions, like Africa is an underserved region when it comes to internet. They don't have the same access that you would say our European counterparts have. So that's what we mean when we say underserved. And we move to the next point soon. Go ahead.
The next point says government and stakeholders to make access more affordable and consider those differently able. Government and stakeholders to make access more affordable and consider those differently able. Government and other stakeholders to make access more affordable and consider those differently able.
Differently able is a politically correct statement.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. This should actually be very strong and it should actually move to the top if you ask me. Yes. Because I think it wasn't very apparent in our last communique, and I think we need to really make it as a very strong statement in this communique, because this is an area that's very, it's ignored, highly, ignored is not the word I'm looking for, it's not given the deserved attention, ignored. Okay, ignored it is then. I think we don't have enough schools that actually deal with the differently abled. Never mind when it comes to technology, it's a completely different story. So I really think we should move this to the top of the statements. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
I see.
Yeah, actually, initially, what we were trying to look at is probably for stakeholders and government to ensure they allocate some of their budget allocation for corporate social responsibility to differently able people. So that's where this statement comes in, because we realize that most of those actually they don't have the same access as others. So that was the main point for this. So, yeah.
Yes, differently able. So we'll move it to the top. Maybe first three. I have no problems with that.
Next.
Okay. The next says for government to establish universal access and service funds.
Again.
We have this. It's right here, point number 13 from our last communique. Implement the universal and services access fund in the IT sector.
Okay.
It's right there.
Good. Then we move to the next point, which says government and stakeholders to support and promote generation of local content. Can I read it again?
No. Wait, hold on 1 second. And we have a point here from last year. Is that the same thing, Mur Aliu? Encourage content delivery networks to be hosted locally. Is that the same as? Can you read what you just said soon?
Government and stakeholders to support and promote the generation of local content. I think it's talking of the same thing. If you had it last year.
Yes. So for the local content bit, would it be, what was the word you said? Government and stakeholders too?
To support and promote the generation of local content.
No, it's not the statement. I'm trying to see whether it is government's role to actually, would it be encouraging government to implement local content, minimum local content laws for the ICT sector? What are you driving at for your point? Then I'll tell you what I'm driving at. Maybe we're not saying the same thing.
We mean, for example, government online services, that could be part of local content, and local application development, and our own history, our own culture to be online, right? This way you can charge a lot within the game, not necessarily going outside.
So want to encourage us to be more of an uploading country than a downloading one. That's what you're saying. Okay, then we're saying two different things. Maybe it will be another point, or I'll put it out there, but I think it may not necessarily come under infrastructure and access. Maybe not. But I think it has to do with giving ICT institutions, local ICT institutions, the platform or the opportunity, and maybe enforcing that, to say that when companies come in from outside to do certain work, when it comes to the technology sector, they'll be forced to actually adopt local companies on board, and maybe insist that maybe 50% of whatever they're doing has to be delivered by local companies. That's where I'm coming from when I talk about local content. So I think we're talking about two different things, but both of them are equally important. So I don't know how to phrase mine, but let's do yours first. I don't think it's in this section. It will be in here? Okay, go ahead, back.
I think that would better fall in digital economy, not infrastructure.
Yeah, but in terms of affordability, like we have the 6P, the more local content we generate, the more traffic, okay? And that also contributes to the affordability. The cost of internet comes down. So that is why we are putting it here.
You heard her? You heard him?
So, Modali, you don't think that belongs here? To a certain extent, maybe it doesn't, because this deals with infrastructure. But inclusion is there. Now, which inclusion are we talking about? Is it inclusion of the underserved areas? Okay. In that case, then I submit, but I'll figure out where to put it in the communique as we go along. So soon we'll go with your point again, please. Just give me 1 second.
Should I repeat the point again? Yes, the point says government and stakeholders to support and promote the generation of local content. Government and stakeholders to support and promote the generation of local content. Government and stakeholders to support and promote the generation of local content. Next section, point, sorry. The next point says government to endeavor for more policy consistency, proper implementation and evaluation.
Can you go ahead again? Government to
endeavor for more policy consistency, proper implementation and evaluation.
Oh, it's not to promote policy. For more policy consistency.
Yes. Proper implementation and evaluation.
Okay, I want to add something to that. I want to say government to endeavor for more policy consistency across institutions.
Okay.
Why?
That is too specific. Why only across institutions? It's the sector. I want to in only institutions, but the whole sector.
Which sector?
ICT sector.
You know, ICT touches on all sectors.
Here, it's better you open it rather than restricting it. If you say on institutions, we are all limiting on that. There are some policies which are not targeting institutions.
To make it more wide, not to specify on institutions.
I had two comments for this. I've said my first comment. The second comment is government to endeavor for policy consistency, proper implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. I think we should put monitoring in there. That sounds like Nigeria. Yeah, proper implementation. For more, yes. I still think we should put it across institutions. Okay, so we have a final one, but we need a word at the. Are we calling on government? Are we? So should you just leave it open and say government to endeavor? Just leave it like that. We could leave it like that. It still carries a very strong message. Government to endeavor for more policy consistency, proper implementation, monitoring, and evaluation.
Exactly.
Great. Madam Soon, how many more points do you have?
Finally.
Good.
To the last point, which says for government to separate media and communication ministry and establish an independent IT ministry.
Excellent.
I agree.
We agree. To
I think that was a reason for us to leave it in the last point.
You seriously saved the best for last. Please repeat that again, word by word, please.
For government to separate media and communication ministry and establish an independent IT ministry.
Yes, we're going to put it in better words. But you have to take into account the agency. You have to. Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
The whole idea of this recommendation was to remove media from the ICT ministry. So you have to phrase it to capture that, or to separate the two ministries. Right now, the ministry is Ministry of Media and ICTs as well. Right, and most of the time you are giving ministers who are more of media experts. Right. So the objective of this recommendation was to separate, to pull out, to remove that media aspect from the ministry. Right. So let's say government to
Ponce, you want to say something? Hold on.
Honorable disagree, Ponslate for the record here, because it's been proven why the definition of information communication technology now also encompasses new media. If you look at most parts of the world, you even have special advisors on new media. Except we want to quantify that new media is basically from ICT. You can't throw it to traditional media. So I think we should just not put that one. To me, it ridiculouses us, especially when within the same document, we already have the plan to set up an ICT agency. You have an ICT agency, then you want to have a ministry. So, I mean, no, it's better. You have an ICT agency, which is the norm in most countries, because one of the things with our communique is that we are also following best practices. And best practices, you have an ICT agency in most countries, and if the Francophone, we call it Ministry of Telecoms, or Ministry of Posts, or Ministry of Informatique. So it's the same thing. So let us not, that's my, but at the same time it's multi-stakeholder, but I resent that statement. Thank you.
I wish to disagree with my elder Pons. I think it's coming from the ministry. I think it may be relevant to us. It's very relevant to really consider separating the two functions. Maybe new medium might be considered under ICTs for obvious reasons, but I think maybe when we say this, we are thinking very conventional, because like my colleague Jallo noted here, most of the times we have people who are really media biased. So when you get to Moise, you realize it's actually 90% ICT and maybe 10% information or media related. So at some point, you really have to be a fast learner, or then you will be confused most of the time. So, and then like also Pons alluded to, in a lot of Francophone countries, really it's Ministry of Telecommunications, Post, and also digital economy. So I think we really need to consider this. I think it's relevant, really having off the media part also, but then, or maybe changing the nomenclature, because most of the time at the level of the ministry, we even receive communications from the presidency which only says Minister of Information instead of the full name, because if you only say Minister of Information, I think for them they're only seeing the information part. But for us as technical people, we feel, it's about time that really Gambia needs to push ICTs, because we all talk about Rwanda. Rwanda, the Minister of ICT sits under the presidency. Is one of the special advisors of President Paul Kagame. That's why they've been able to move really the ICT agenda. Fine, we're able to get under the NDP as pillar number 5, we transform the Gambia into a digital society. But still, there is a lot that needs to be done. If you see the budget of the ministry, if you see a lot of these things, you will really see Gambia is really not considering ICTs. So maybe it may start with a change of name, maybe, we don't know, but I think it may be relevant really as an insider. So maybe we may consider it, but really see how to kind of rephrase it. Thank you.
If I may add on to what Amadou was saying, I think the problem is because the ministry is giving media expert ministers. And what led to that, as he said, is the nomenclature, how the ministry is named. Right? Remember, in the Gambia, most ministries has more than one function. And if you look, media is more related to ICT than any other ministry in the Gambia. So it fits more in this ministry than taken anywhere else. But then because the mandate of the ministry is more of ICT than media, so let the name be coined in such a way that whenever we have new executive, new cabinet, they will see it as an ICT ministry rather than a media ministry. At the other ministry, that's our position, that the name should be better coined. The way it is now, as he said, some people just say Minister of Information and stop there. So Minister of Media, just media. So if you can advocate for a change of name, that's better. And also, to some extent, the minister there now is a media expert. If he sees this, that we are saying separate, so you also, it's kind of telling him, please, we don't want to hear. Right? What I mean.
But I think the wording, what I have here is government to separate media and communication ministry and establish an independent IT ministry.
What is coming out from what Amadou said and what Jallo said is the acronym. Is really the acronym. And as Amadou rightly said, if you want to promote something, for people to see you are doing something, that acronym has to be rightly put. So it might really be maybe, I would say more of a rebranding. No, Jallo said his last statement was basically, let us rebrand the ministry to reflect what it is now, which is the domain is ICTs, the digital economy, all those. So it's the rebranding. I don't know. Yeah, do we let us rebrand? Is it rebrand? I don't know. So that's I think it's the rebranding. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So I want to also add on something concerning the two ministries. Due to what I see in other countries, like example Zambia, where they have a ministry of ICT, and looking at it, if you amalgamate these two ministries, then what we are talking about here, empowering the young people on ICT, might be very difficult, because this ministry, that is the ICT ministry, if it stands alone, thereby the ICT ministry will be able to recruit teachers, train them on also teaching pedagogies, train them on classroom management. With their IT content, they can be sent to schools, and then they will teach students how to do ICT even at the lower basic school level. Thank you.
So can we wrap this group up? The same thing I had 5 minutes ago. Government to separate media and communication ministry and establish an, I don't like this independent IT ministry. It's not gonna fly. I think we need to figure out a way of saying it differently. Government to rebrand or rename? Go ahead.
Government to consider renaming the Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure. To, we can propose or stop there. Yes.
What do you think, Pons? Did you get that? Amadou? Oh, telecoms and digital economy. Hmm. Then what happens to the Moisi? Then it becomes what now? Ministry of Information.
The information bit, the media bit, it can be part of their mandate, but that should not necessarily feature in the name. Or even where it features, but it should not overshadow everything else. Right now, the information is overshadowing everything. So the name should be such a way, either includes the media or not, because it happens. You can do your mandate, but it's not featured in your name.
So come again with your new suggestion. I'm going to put it on a different sentence so that we'll compare the two.
Amadou was saying Ministry of Telecoms and Digital Economy. Huh? Yes, that's okay. I would have better we stop at just ask the government to consider renaming it. Let's not propose. To the Ministry of Telecoms and Digital Economy. Telecommunications and Digital Economy.
Okay, so I have telecoms or telecommunications. Okay, so I have government to rename the Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure to the Ministry of Telecommunications and Digital Economy. Now, was that the last point? Soon? Okay, you guys did not mention anything on electronic payment systems, or is that going to the digital economy? Okay, so we'll move it. I'm going to leave it here because I really want this thing mentioned somewhere. Propose okay, so we propose that government yes, you're correct. So propose for government to rename, right? Consider renaming. Okay? Government to consider renaming. Okay. Why does, yeah. So let me just accept those changes. Government to consider renaming the Ministry of Information and Communication Infrastructure to the Ministry of Telecommunications and Digital Economy. Yeah? Great. I'm going to leave these last two on. If we don't capture it in digital economy, I want us to consider it if it is not captured. So ladies on the stage, we're moving on to which sub-theme? What's the name of the sub-theme? No, but the full name. The role of, can you?
The role of the internet in building a digital economy in the New Gambia in line with the NDP.
So the theme for sub 2 is the role of the internet in building a digital economy in the New Gambia in line with the NDP.
You can go ahead with your first point.
Some of the points that were made, one of them is to make internet affordable, reliable, accessible, and accessible.
Is that your scope?
Those are just some of the points that were.
Okay, let's move to the next one.
Okay. They mentioned having to implement a power backup system in case of power outage.
In case of power?
In case of power outage.
Okay, go ahead.
To create a channel for e-commerce so businesses, freelancers, and entrepreneurs can do business effectively online.
Now that's more like your scope.
Sorry?
That's more like your scope. So I'll capture that as point number 1.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm just going to scrap this. Cybersecurity, safety, or government affairs.
They want an agent in the Gambia.
No, hold on. The last one you said about freelancers, can you read that again?
Or to create a channel for e-commerce so businesses, freelancers, and entrepreneurs can do businesses effectively online.
To create a channel for e-commerce so that
businesses, freelancers, and entrepreneurs can do business effectively online.
Sorry, who was the chair of this group? Ibrahima? Is he here? Ibrahima, can you come, please? Yes, I want it to be more specific. I think it's too vague. Ibrahima, can you come, please? All right, so to create a channel for e-commerce so that businesses, freelancers, and entrepreneurs can do business effectively online. I think this has to do with online payment systems. I think we need to be very clear on that. We had something we captured last year.
Yes.
Maybe let me read it, and then maybe if it's more in line with what you guys were thinking, you'll tell me.
Okay.
Okay, so I have here, create the enabling environment for the use of electronic payment systems, inbound and outbound.
That makes sense, yeah.
So we could marry the two statements. So we could say, create the enabling environment for the use of electronic payment systems 2. Yes.
Example will be PayPal.
I don't think we should, I mean, we don't have to go into specifics, but I think just mentioning electronic payment services, that covers all the electronic payment system, it covers all kinds. Yes. Yes, but it doesn't have to be PayPal. We could have something that's even locally developed that can facilitate payment systems. And that kills two birds with one stone. We will still be able to deal with the payment system issue and still develop local content. So, go ahead. Yeah, have the mic.
Why I'm emphasizing PayPal is that because since PayPal is already established, and it can be, you can make online payment with it both inbound and outbound. Let's give that a priority for now. At least the young ones to, the young ones can do their business for now. Then later on, maybe we can encourage application developers to go in to develop local apps.
And sorry,
go ahead.
One of the things that was mentioned is to create like a blockchain network that can like, I don't know if you know what the blockchain network is, but a similar version of that here.
Hello, Buran? No, I think with respect to giving examples, wish to suggest let us not be too specific, because I don't want us to be anti, maybe competition also. It's like because PayPal is still a vendor, so we might be seen as favoring one vendor against the other. So maybe we can encourage payment systems, but maybe if we specify maybe against certain things. That's my suggestion.
My question is, what do we aim to achieve out of this? Because that if you want to help local programmers, if you want to help local Gambians, in order for them to be able to make payment online. So if you want to say something to be developed locally, for it to go outside, it will take a lot of time. So PayPal is international and it can be accessed by Gambians. So I think we just maintain PayPal.
Fact that we have many payment systems, somebody can come and say, did PayPal lobby us? We have to be very, very sensitive with what we use. We should avoid using something that is not institutionally related to Gambia. That's my point. So what electronic payment systems should do, that's my word. Except there's something happening that PayPal is being lobbied to come here, but it should do. Yeah.
We are not actually saying we are favoring PayPal over the others. All what we are saying is that as a matter of urgency, right, we have a lot of entrepreneurs who want to engage in e-business, but this is their stumbling block right now. What is available for now, we have PayPal, which is dominant, excellent in developing countries like Africa. Why not we have an example have PayPal in place, and we can make a follow-up with that. We make sure that is what is in place. Then later on we can encourage local app developers also to develop something like PayPal. But at least something needs to urgently be in place.
Wahab wants to say something. Francis, go ahead, and then Wahab will say something. Thank you, Francis. Wahab, you have something to say?
She
said what I wanted to say, but as you know, somebody who is in the tech, studying tech, and as a developer, I think one of the problems that we face is, if we want to include an e-payment system in the applications that we develop. Yes, we have our mobile monies with the different service providers, but they don't have an API, or they are not willing to give their API to the developers to be able to integrate that e-payment system in the applications that we develop. I think that was one of the reasons which triggered this point.
Phone, you can receive your money through their account.
Well, one problem I encountered with PayPal is that you can make payment with PayPal, but the problem you cannot receive payment. And that's not only affecting Gambia, but it's also affecting other African countries. So I think this is for central bank to see how best they can help us with that.
Recently, Senegal has PayPal, the business account. So all we need to do is to work with the bank, maybe banking association, to encourage the banks to deploy, implement their API, and we are there.
Okay, I've listened to all the propositions and points, but the bottom line is we can't really name any company or institution on our communique. So I am afraid, and what makes you think that we don't have something developed locally that's like PayPal already? What makes you think that somebody hasn't already developed that? And that the reason it's not flying is because they don't have access to the payment gateway to do it. So why can't we list those companies as examples? And we're here fighting for local content, and we're the same ones trying to sell companies outside. Think about it. Yeah, so I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot when we actually mention other companies when we're here trying to fight local content, or fight for local content. So if we want local content, it should start with us. So instead of giving examples of companies that are outside, we should give examples of our own local companies that are doing something similar. That's just my own personal opinion, not speaking as chair.
Yeah, so why we were talking about this is, I says, maybe like some of us who are the freelancers or social media marketing freelancers experts that were recruited, and we are all being anchored by an online company that is called the Growthborn. So I suggested that, I says with all the experts that we have, all the expertise that we have, so we can have just a few number of experts, maybe from the ITAC or any other ICT professional institute that will just build up an online company whereby all the freelancers in the Gambia will be anchored by those experts. And then any job that you do online, the money will be sent to that company, so you will be paid locally in the Gambia here. So this is the actual sense behind all this. Thank you.
Okay, so I think maybe if we just say create the enabling environment for the use of electronic payment systems, that captures everything, including freelancers and everything. It does. It captures developers, freelancers, everybody that's actually working with digital payments. Yeah? Everyone that's in the fintech space, it affects them. So I think maybe create an enabling environment for the use of electronic payment systems, inbound and outbound. That just all encompasses everything. Entrepreneurs, businesses, freelancers, everyone. So I think we'll take that and put it here. So Frances, you want to go with the next point, please?